I'm Paul Spriggs. I make furniture. This is my workshop. These are some of the chairs that I make, rush-heated chairs. And through here is where the work is actually done. And this is a chair which I'm seating at present. In Rush, a nice brown oak carver. It makes a nice change from the normal light oak and the ash, which is what I normally work on. Ash is the most suitable wood for chair making. It's the wood which is traditionally used for chair making, and it's got that sort of flexibility and strength which it needs. Oak is fine, but it can throw up a few nasty surprises occasionally. This is bulrush. It grows in rivers and in watercourses. It is the true bulrush. Not the stuff with the sort of large head on the top, which most people think of as bulrush, which is in fact reed mace. But it grows to quite a considerable length, and when it's dried out, it has this sort of supple quality which makes it easy to twist. Work around the chair as a sort of figure of eight, and normally the chairs being wider at the front than at the back, you have to sort of double up as you come around to the front corners until you get to a point at which there's that becomes equal to that, and then you just sort of keep working around until you get to the middle. Really, you normally got sort of three twisted together. The actual quantity of rushes you're working with will depend on the actual thickness of the rushes you're using, because they tend to vary a lot in quality and in thickness. Simple half hitch like that, once you've got the tension onto that, it then just holds quite easy and you start twisting straight away. The muscles of the fingers which tend to ache after, or can do after a spell of this, of course you're constantly speeding them up and twisting and keeping the tension on them all the time. I mean, to keep it at a firm seat, it's essential that you keep the tension there. Bring it up and under. We don't twist on the underside and just come round there. And at that point, we generally need to introduce a new rush. That slips and then it's just simply trapped and just twisted in. It is quite a time-consuming business. I don't think anybody really knows how old the tradition is, but certainly it goes back some centuries, I would think, both in this country and on the continent. Should last a lifetime, really. But cats don't get it. It is a skill which unfortunately has sort of fallen rather by the wayside, I think, certainly, well, I suppose over the last century, probably. Which is a bit of a shame. I mean, partly the problem is finding the material. I may actually cut this stuff myself. These are the rushes which are ready prepared for use. They've been damped as much, they've just been hosed down. They need to be hosed down several hours before we actually want to use, and then kept wrapped up like this, which makes them supple and easy to work. But there are various places where I have cut them in the past. Now I go to a river the other side of Oxford at present, but there are various sources in Gloucestershire. This is a chair waiting for its final assembly. It's in oak, it's actually fumed. That is to say, it's been exposed to the fumes of ammonia, done within a cabinet over a period of several hours, which works on the tannin which occurs naturally in oak and causes it to darken and produces a rich brown, which doesn't show up as such in its present state, but when it has the finishes on, it tends to get that much richer colour, as you can get some sort of idea from that. You see various components are bent, the slats there and these back poles. That is done using a steamer. The steamer is through here. I've got a rather cunning system here which I devised myself. It's got a sort of self-feed system with a head of water up there and a valve there to control the flow of the water. And it even has an anti-backflow valve there, because sometimes as you open and close the doors you can get sort of a surge back, which you don't want. And then the steam actually comes up through the converted kettle here on a gas ring into the steamer itself there, where we've got various racks into which the poles and the slats and whatever are placed for a period of a couple of hours maybe, before they're taken out and taken through to the workshop. Are going to go into various formers. These are the bending formers up there for the back poles, and the slats are bent using these devices here, which are then sort of the slats are in there. We put something over the top to hold them in place, and which are then just sort of wedged in. It's something which is quite quick and easy to use, and they stay in there for a few days. This is a finished chair, a spindleback, one of my own designs. Most of my chair designs owe a lot to the arts and crafts movement of about a century ago, particularly one Ernest Jimson. He's a character I knew about, learnt about in my childhood actually, because he was actually related to my grandmother. I remember being taken out by my grandparents to Sapperton and places to see the places that this fellow worked at. Of course, he didn't mean much to me at the time, but since I moved on and went into architecture, I decided to do a dissertation actually as a student on Ernest Jimson, because he was an architect, and being very much influenced by William Morris, he set up these workshops at Sapperton with the two brothers, the Barnsley brothers. They were into all sorts of crafts, particularly furniture making. So when I decided to get out of architecture myself in around about 1980, I just had an idea that possibly these Jimson chairs, or something like these Jimson chairs, there would be a market for them. I had someone telling me how much when they sat on chairs they liked to be able to tuck their legs underneath, as a particularly tall person. And so I always design my chairs now without any rails lower than they need to be, so they can actually tuck their feet underneath there. Then I stamp my initials in the middle there. I think good design is timeless, quite honestly, and I tend to try and avoid labels that people tend to put on furniture. You know? I mean, I talk a lot about arts and crafts. It's just like I mean, not all arts and crafts design is necessarily good, but I think the general approach is good. One of the influences on my work, and certainly on my workmanship, is Brant Vedden. He would never have known this, but I think it was through comments I think he made some 10 or 15 years ago probably, which caused me to raise my game really. And he set such high standards for his own work, and he was really an inspiration. It's a regret to me that I never actually told him how important he was to me actually before he died 3 years ago, I think. This is a table which I've been commissioned to make of a family crest set into a ripple sycamore top using various woods. It's something a bit different from me and rather exciting little project. It's called intarsia work, this, which the wood is something like almost a quarter of an inch thick, pieces of wood which actually set straight into the tabletop, and quite delicate and tricky in places, as you can see. And this here is the pedestal for this table, which I've been turning.
What's that?
Oh, well, that's something I've been meaning to get sorted out for a very long time. It's actually a hole. It's a hole full of wood shaving. It's where, as you can imagine, wood turning produces a massive amount of material, and bagging it all up is quite a tedious business. So all I do is just sweep it over into this hole and go and jump on it to compress it, and it all goes into a bag there. Then I just take that off. Lift that out, take the bags out and store it, and put another bag in there, and there you go. It's just a very convenient method of dealing with the rubbish. Why the Guild is important to me? Well, it's good to belong to an organisation which does set pretty good high standards, certainly, and it's good for the relationship with other makers. You know, you just can't do everything in isolation. You know, so yes, it is important.